In Module 5, we will talk about oral language, comprehension, writing, and creativity development and engagement when we engage in play, and especially guided play with preschoolers, kindergartners, and even early elementary age children. Remember from Module 1, in our readings and videos, we established the foundation that play is learning for young children. Play offers an opportunity for children to be mentally engaged. It takes away the passive. It offers true engagement with this mental activity and often the physical activity. Play offers social interactions with both children and adults. And play offers an opportunity for meaningful connections between children's worlds and experiences. It offers children the opportunity to work through and to think about and problem solve experiences they have or observe in their real world. In ECE105, we are presented with an observation cycle where we ask questions, we watch, listen, and record, we reflect, and then respond, which then leads to asking more questions, watching, listening, and recording more, reflecting more, and responding. This ongoing cycle is embedded in play and is embedded in our readings here in the book Serious Fun. In Chapter 8, which we read in Module 1, I want to remind you of some text by reading. In a time of accountability, push down, and high-stakes assessment, even in some kindergarten classrooms, many early childhood educators feel pressured to focus on academic rigor, often with instructional practices that are not developmentally appropriate. A misconception among some educators, administrators, parents, and policymakers is that a narrow definition of academic rigor, one that emphasizes worksheets and other highly teacher-directed activities, is especially necessary for children growing up in under-resourced communities. Research shows that a more beneficial approach is to offer an even richer, more well-rounded education in which children have meaningful, frequent opportunities to be self-directed scholars. With the right supports, young children flourish when provided opportunities to be engaged in investigations that integrate content. In addition, it is important to immerse children in an educational environment that maximizes the use of academic English to build knowledge about the world. Developing academic vocabulary is critical. In later grades, decoding problems are relatively rare, but comprehension problems, driven by lack of vocabulary and background knowledge, are rampant. Rigor and developmentally appropriate practice are both essential to early childhood education. Done well, they are mutually reinforcing. This may be a bold claim, but consider the transformation of 17 kindergarten classrooms from didactic experiences to be rigorous and developmentally appropriate, student-centered learning environments. See these changes through the eyes of one teacher partner. And then they walked us through the transformation in a classroom. If you want, go back and reread all of Chapter 8 for yourself to remind yourself of this need and the proof that we're going to see here in Chapters 3 and 4. Play and language development go hand in hand. Play offers the opportunity for young children to talk and listen. Children do not learn to listen by sitting quietly in a classroom at a table listening to a teacher. They do not learn how to talk by being talked to. Instead, as you will see in Chapter 3, children learn to talk by playing with language, by being given the opportunity to use language. Beyond demands and following instructions, children need the opportunity to have dialogues with each other and with adults, to have interesting questions posed to them that require them to think and respond, listen more and think and respond, and continue the cycle of conversation. Rich, meaningful conversation. We have to be intentional in this exposure to language. Go back to Chapter 8. Again, it identified the critical need for academic language. Those are terms related to skills. They are also terms related to problem solving and thinking. Additionally, intentional exposure to language and the idea of verbal mapping that you will read about on page 37 allows us to expand a child's background knowledge. Children living in Kansas may never see the ocean, or children living in Alaska who visit the ocean all the time may never really understand what a seashell is, as their beaches don't really have shells and no one goes to swim on those beaches. We have bias in our perspectives and experiences, and later in their learning, the lack of experiences or exposure will impact a child's ability to learn. Children, in order to comprehend their reading and to be able to think critically, need to have exposure and high quality vocabulary development. And play offers opportunities for these. Part of the reason we do this in play and how we do this in play is also through materials. When you look at pages 39 and 40, the book talks about props in dramatic play. This would also go for puppets. This would go for dolls or types of little figurines we might have in the classroom. We have our basic props, which probably if we walked into any one of your settings, we would see phase 1 very well done. If you flip over to page 40 in your textbook, Serious Fun, you'll see what initial props might look like. And so we take the initial props for a basic home or dramatic play center. So you'll see things for cooking, for the kitchen, for a baby, for dress up such as a wallet. But then we need to build this richer, maybe more thematic, to phase 2, where after this teacher watches how the children are playing, they move to something that's more detailed. Notice there becomes certain cultural twists to the props as well. These can mimic both the culture in the classroom. It can mimic culture in the community if that is not part of the classroom makeup. And it may even need to be experiences and culture that's brought in from around the world, around the country, if that seems to be a need. And then phase 3, you begin to even add more to the setting. With every development to the next phase, you're increasing the complexity, the cultural sensitivity, and the level of play and vocabulary that can be used and will be supported. Additionally, in play, you can create print-rich environments, providing the children opportunity to write, to scribble, to draw, to use numbers and letters, words and pictures. This can be clipboards with paper and graphing paper and rulers in the block area. It can be menus and little tablets to take orders on, and pens and pencils and grocery lists and grocery store ads and dramatic play. The more we offer print-rich experiences in the classroom, the more we are embedding quality vocabulary opportunities, academic language, and the pre-writing and literacy skills needed for school-age learning. In Chapter 4, we move to a discussion of play with art, literacy, and drama. One thing to note here in Serious Fun is that we're not talking necessarily about free play. Probably with the dramatic play and puppets or retelling stories, it can be a little more free. However, when we talk here in the art and the literacy and the drama, this is more teacher directed, but in a developmentally appropriate way. And so we have a phenomenal example here in Chapter 4 of inspiration in art, which can also be generalized to inspiration in children's literature, for children to begin to tell their own stories in their own art and their own play. This is a strong precursor for literacy skills and writing skills needed in kindergarten and on. I want to bring your attention to page 53 and the conclusion of Chapter 4. The author says, "As I reflected on this project, I was amazed at how the introduction of a single fine art reproduction fostered the children's developmental growth across many domains, and also fostered the activities that emerged from that one piece of art. I was particularly pleased to see the connections made between art, literacy, and drama. Through the exploration of the painting Monday Washing Day, the children's observation skills and critical thinking improved. Their paintings and drawings began to demonstrate understanding of the use of color, shape, and line to represent meaning. Their oral explanations of their paintings, stories, gave significance to the children's work and allowed them to express their full ideas without having to worry about the conventions of getting their thoughts on paper. The children's dramatization of their stories brought their ideas to life and provided a stage for reflection and introduction to peer review and a meaningful opportunity for improving their stories. Directing, performing, and revising also promoted social confidence. Ultimately, a seemingly simple spark, Andrew's desire to tell his story, resulted in a combination of art, expression, and discussion that allowed the children to all be successful in multiple ways.